Short answer, I think meditation is great for anxiety. Now, the longer answer, let's understand, let's get some context, okay? Anxiety is basically, in sort of a loose sense of understanding, it's basically mental suffering, mental agony, mental what you'd probably call a mental illness. I don't look at I don't look at it as mental illnesses. I look at it the way Patanjali speaks about yoga in Patanjali Sutra. He says yoga chitta vritti nirodha, which means, translated to English, yoga stops the fluctuations of the mind. And in my understanding, all mental health issues are nothing but these fluctuations of the mind. A little bit of fluctuations, a little bit of mental health issues, lots of fluctuations, a lot of mental health issues. So, and he says yoga, chitta vritti nirodha. Now, it is important to understand that when Patanjali is talking about yoga, yoga isn't just about the poses. In fact, in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is some 190 some sutras, there are only 3 sutras that are specifically about physical yoga asanas or poses. The rest of it is not about the asanas. In fact, the asanas or the poses are a means to actually achieve yoga or yoga. And what is yoga? Yoga, it is the union of this being with the universe. That's the way. That's the way that school of thought describes the journey. The way I see it, at the end of the day, being able to understand in experience, not just in words and intellect, but being able to experience the loosening of the me, the I, and the experiencing of the oneness. Anyway, that's a different topic for a different question. But coming back to, is meditation beneficial for anxiety, or can you meditate if you have anxiety? So let's build that context, okay? So Patanjali says yoga chitta vritti nirodha, which means all of these practices, meditation, what you and I call meditation, are basically practices that we do to reach a meditative state. So all of these practices, they help to calm down and eventually pause the fluctuations of the mind. And what is anxiety but fluctuations of the mind? So yes, meditation is good for anxiety. Anxious people, learning meditation practices is one of the best solutions for people with anxiety and anybody struggling with emotional mental distress, and that is almost everybody. The other context that I want to sort of bring our awareness towards is, let's talk about, this is my a little bit of context to me. I truly believe, I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not a Buddhist, religion, etc. And I truly believe that I'm a child of the Buddha's lineage. And what that primarily means is that I found this cool dude Buddha's teachings, and I tried them on, and I realized, wow, this guy makes a lot of sense. And then as I kept on practicing, I realized that this is the lineage I must belong to. So again, a different story. Now, the reason I give you I talk about Buddhism, I talk about Buddha and his teachings, is because when we look at the historical story of Buddha's life, it is said that when he was Prince Siddharth, he was the reason he left the palace and all of that was because he wanted to find a way to remove mental suffering, to remove human suffering, right? And now when we think about Buddha and or meditation and or any of these people, we think about this sort of word, woo-woo word, spirituality, and like, oh, spirituality is something different. Every spiritual person began their journey in some way, shape, or form to remove suffering, human suffering. And so, in a way, if you think about it, the roots of any sort of therapeutic landscape are in spirituality. Hmm? So is meditation good for anxiety? Absolutely. That's why the Buddha left and tried to find a path and then found the path that he found to remove, let go of suffering. And what is unavoidable in this world that you and I live in as living beings? As living beings, the core characteristic for every single living being is arising, staying, passing, only to arise again. So there is life, there is birth, then there is life, then there is decline, then there is death, and then life will come up again in some way, shape, or form. Yeah? That is the only thing that's common for every living being. When there is birth, there is pain. There is pain in the labor. When there is life, things keep happening. Different points in time, something happens, something happens, something happens. Individual pain, family pain, group pain, some or the other pain will come up. And eventually decline and death, pain. So pain, so to say, is a part and parcel of life, and not in the doomsday kind of sense, but as a fact, it's like the sun rises in the east on earth. It sets in the west on earth. It's a fact. The gravity is whatever it is, it's a fact. Right? And so similarly, the experience of pain is a part of life. That cannot be undone. What can be dissolved is the constant suffering with the experiences in life. Anxiety is an experience that I experience. Yeah? And there could be real things that create anxiety in me. But anxiety is my experience of the whatever is happening, whatever is there, right? So, which is what is suffering, mental, emotional suffering. And meditation practices help us move out, let go of the suffering piece. Now, what meditation should somebody who's struggling with anxiety focus on or start with? That is the question that we need to think about. Mostly when there is anxiety in the system, the best way to start is to do some form of body-based meditation practice that allows you to settle down into the body. It can be through breath, it can be through physical somatic work, it can be through actually going for a run. Doesn't matter, any and all of those things. Anxiety is the sort of energy that's traveling in the body and then also impacting the mind, and the mind and body, of course, they're together. And so the mind thinks a thought, it creates more of this bodily anxious energy. There is bodily anxious energy, it creates thought in the mind. And so where do you sort of how do you stop the cycle? The easiest way to step in is through the body. And depending on, again, your previous experiences, your skill set, your emotional mental skill set, your practices that you've done, not done, all of those things, and then of course the current situation and circumstances that you're in, depending on various factors, you might want to either do an explicit physical workout, or if you're in a different space, you might want to work with the breath. You might want to work with just the soma, the somatic body, stretch, movement, intuitive movement. You'll need to figure out. Hmm? In my understanding and experience, if you're struggling with anxiety, I would highly recommend following somebody, learning the right meditation practices for you. Eventually, you will have to figure out what's right for you. And my recommendation would be finding somebody who can help you figure out what's best for you.